And NFTs are turning into a mainstream gateway into crypto. And our latest example, do you know Quest bars? Well, the entrepreneur behind them is getting into the non-fungible token craze. Joining us now is Tom Bilyeu, CEO of Impact Theory and co-founder of Quest Nutrition. Hey there, Tom. So tell me a bit about your NFT debut project and why you decided to get into them in the first place.
So the project itself is called the Impact Theory Founders Key, and we like to say that it unlocks the future of everything that we're doing as a company. The reason that we are getting into it is when you look at NFTs not as a JPEG, but as a technology, you marry that to the idea that, at least I believe, technology is a one-way street. So once you get going, there's no coming back. And as I really looked at the technology, I realized what it allows you to do is reward your community. And for somebody like me who's trying to build the next Disney, what you need is a thriving community. And so we saw this as a tremendous way for our community to capture tremendous value from the things that we're building.
Hi, Tom. Welcome to the show. So it seems like everybody is creating NFTs these days. I guess, could you just explain to us a little bit more, why one needs an NFT specifically? Because, for a lot of companies, it's just kind of become this sort of just marketing buzzy. I mean, is there really a larger reason other than just kind of it's cool to have an NFT because everyone has an NFT now?
Yeah, so this is where it gets really interesting. And every time I go to explain NFTs to other entrepreneurs, the first thing you have to get them to understand is there's this concept in neuroscience called the God neuron. And there are some people that just have an outsized response to religious experiences. And then there, I think, is a similar thing in the brain that I will dub the ownership neuron. So there are some people, they want to own something. So they feel like, not only am I a part of a community in action, but I actually own part of this ephemeral thing that is the community. And then the next important part is to understand the metadata. So the question everybody asks is, all right, you've got a JPEG, you just paid a lot of money for it, but why can't I just go take a screenshot and now I have a pixel perfect replica of that? And when people say that, it's only because they don't understand metadata. And if you are a community first company and you understand what metadata allows you to do, which is who has a real copy of that thing. So for us, it's a key. And so if I want to give you access to something, which could be early access to an NFT project based on one of the comic books that we're writing, for instance, and we know that there's going to be high demand, not everybody's going to be able to get one, supply is really limited, I can say, hey, if you have a founder's key, which I can verify, then you're going to get early access to that. So somebody that copied that and tries to say, hey, I have one too, we can check the metadata. Or if you were to come to one of my live events, I can scan it as a ticket to the event, see that it's real, let you into the event for free or for discount or early or whatever. So it allows people to have a really dynamic and interactive relationship with the community. And when you realize that what NFTs do, once you understand that technological layer, they make both the real world and the metaverse far more interactive and customized to the individual.
So, Tom, first of all, welcome. And what exactly is impact theory? You're talking about making the new Disney and it's putting out this NFT. So what exactly is that? What's behind all this?
All right, so I'm going to give it to you in the world's fastest nutshell. And if there's anything you want to drill down into, we can do that. So I big brother for a kid in the inner cities in my teenage years here in Los Angeles, so South Central LA. Only supposed to be an 8-week program. Long story short, becomes an 8.5-year relationship with him. Had a very difficult home life. That leaves a lasting mark on me, but I'm too young to really help solve that problem for him. Flash forward 15 years later, I've built a $1 billion company. I have 3,000 employees, but because we're manufacturing in some of the worst neighborhoods in LA again. So I'm in Compton, we're in some other industrial cities. And so 1,000 of my employees remind me exactly of this kid. And so I started thinking, wait, I'm not going to make the same mistakes that I made then. I know exactly what people need to do to change their life in order to get out of these gnarly circumstances. So I create a university and I just start teaching people, think like this, act like this. You could start your own company. You could become a linchpin in a company. You will definitely make more money over time as you increase your skill set. And I found that about 2% of people actually did something. And The people that did, I still get phone calls and text messages. You changed my life. I'm making more money than I ever thought possible. Just really opened the vista for them in terms of what they could do with their life. But that's only 2%. And so my wife and I are obsessed with scale. And so we started asking the no BS question of what would it take to impact the other 98%. And what we realized, the only honest answer is you have to sway culture and you need to get them when they're young. So there's this period between 11 and 15 called the age of imprinting. And the Japanese actually build their entertainment around this, which is a side story I won't go down unless you ask. But that putting those pieces together, we realized that the core competency that allowed us to market Quest as well as we did was we had built a studio inside of a protein bar company, which was very weird, but it had us creating our own stories and really taking hold of that community engagement. So we wanted to spin that out into a standalone company that would tell stories, traditional film, TV, video games, all of that, to make sure that in that sweet spot of 11 to 15, that we were giving people entertainment that had embedded in it ideas of empowerment. So the mission statement of the company is to make sure at scale that nobody gets to the age of 15 without encountering a growth mindset. And we plan to do it through entertainment.
So, Tom, I was going to ask about how Steve Aoki was involved before I do. I do want to ask, whatever did happen to your little brother there?
So, yeah, that is a long and distressing story. So the promise I made to him when he was young was that, hey, as long as I live in Los Angeles, I'm going to help you with your homework. And we were able to pull it off for almost a decade. And then he was unfortunately being abused at home, which I wasn't aware of. He got taken from his home. I became the guardian to help him into the court system. He got into foster care. They were moving him farther and farther away at the same time that I moved to London. And so in that process, lost contact with him and have tried to reach out to him unsuccessfully. So I am hopeful that one day we will be able to reconnect, but we have not yet been able to.
Hope he's watching. And so, as I mentioned before, Steve Aoki is involved in this NFT. Can you explain what's going on there?
Yeah. So the whole idea is to tell stories that are like the stories that made me who I am. So Star Wars brought me Yoda. Yoda led me to real life Taoism, and Taoism changed my life. And so we want to tell stories that have that kind of real. It's entertainment, right? You just love Star Wars because it's awesome. But the little green dude also happens to have advice that's actually real. And so we want to tell stories like that. And Steve and I knew each other before, and we're both techno optimists. So we both have a very bright, rosy vision of the future in our minds. And we wanted to tell a story that matched what we call the third way. It's an idea that I took from reading Nelson Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom. And I don't think he ever used the word the third way, but the concept that he presents in the book is any oppressed people has three options. Option number one is to remain oppressed. Option number two is to become the oppressor. Option number three is to find a path of unity. And obviously we know how that played out in his life and absolutely extraordinary. And so we wanted to take that idea of what's going to happen in a society as people begin to augment themselves with technology. I mean, Elon Musk is already working on this. So you've got people that are augmenting themselves with technology. There will be a rift between people who do and people who don't. And so playing out the dynamic of opening on a dystopian world and then seeing if we can march towards, I won't say utopian because I don't think it exists, but marching towards something that's better through that third way of unity. But how do you navigate that conflict? And so it's a cool sci-fi story that Steve and I have been working on for years together now, and it's about to have its own NFT drop in early 2022.
Interesting. As you talk about your community, I can see how you decided to get into NFTs because a big part of it is creating that community. It's the gamification of it. But there are a lot already in existence. I mean, OpenSea, Nifty Gateway, Gary Vee, they've developed their communities. So what will be different about yours?
Well, so to go straight to what is different, our goal with the founders key is to show people, look, I'm going to spend the rest of my career building this. I've already generated fantastic wealth in my life. I'm not doing this for money. My wife and I had a decision to make. Do we buy an island and retire and never work again? Or do we come and do something that we think is meaningful? And right now, we're in this fascinating transition point where as Max Planck said, science does not advance one insight at a time. It advances one funeral at a time. And culture right now is advancing in a similar fashion where you have younger people just rapidly adopting Web3, not only as a technology, but as an ethos. And so as a company, we're trying to make sure that that ethos is in the products that we create. And part of the ethos is the community should be able to capture a lot of the value of the growth of a company. And so we're putting that into the mechanic of our NFT. So our NFT, you could just say is, it's an image, a really cool image, I might add. But underlying that, because of the metadata, is all these other things that we're going to be able to give people access to that will help them capture some of the value as we grow as a company. And so that focus on making sure that the value is ending up in the hands, not just of the corporation itself, but in the hands of the people who are truly helping to build it. That is going to be, I think that will be the thing that makes it really matter. We, of course, have individual things we're giving people access to and stuff like that. Yeah. That'll be better than what's already out there. We have mechanics that are new and different, but that'll be the power behind it.
Yeah, I see that with some of the NFTs. They're tied to real world experiences, perks here and there, maybe some quest bars in the future. All right, Tom,
any new flavors?
Any new flavors? Lawrence wants a flavor.
They are bringing new flavors out all the time. They are doing an extraordinary job. So yeah, I would say keep an eye on that. Tom. More delicious stuff coming.
He loves protein.